How I transformed my workspace from this into something this beautiful, with proper ergonomics that preserve health, where it's pleasant and most importantly comfortable to work, what difficulties I faced along the way, how I overcame them, and how much it all costs. Since sometimes I work up to 14 hours a day, the chair for me is not just an object, it's the thing I spend the most time on in my life. That's why in such cases the chair has to be the best possible. My previous chair, which cost 40,000, was very comfortable, but after one sore back and a few cases of hemorrhoids, I started looking into proper sitting posture at the desk, and it turned out that my chair was absolutely unsuitable. There is a pinnacle of chair making in the world called Herman Miller, but unfortunately I didn't have the money for it. I decided to try my luck and buy the so-called Herman Miller for the poor called Samurai Black Edition, which is actually similar in its construction principles. I'll honestly say if it can replace the pricey Herman Miller. The chair was assembled without any problems because there was an instruction manual. Without it, I would have had to rack my brain, but my first attempts to sit on the new chair felt terribly uncomfortable. The thing is, my body had already gotten used to sitting incorrectly, so the correct posture felt uncomfortable. I was ready for this and told myself to endure it. The chair has a lot of adjustments, so I set everything up to be in an anatomically correct position, which caused problems elsewhere. Apparently there is a conspiracy in the world. Desk manufacturers make desks for mutants because even at 175 centimeters tall, which is the most common height on the planet, they still do not fit me properly. In the correct position on the chair, when the chair's armrests are exactly level with the surface of the desk, my legs are left hanging. As a temporary solution, there are footrests, and I just used an old stool, but I'll also show you a more radical way to solve this problem a bit later. Proper sitting at the desk is all connected, where one thing leads to another, and it turned out that my monitor was also set too low. In the end, I got frustrated and decided to redo absolutely everything. The main part of any desk, as you can guess from the name, is the tabletop. My previous tabletop, which was only 1.2 meters, was absolutely not enough for me, since I need to connect a lot of equipment and sometimes even use a laptop alongside the computer. I wanted to buy the longest tabletop possible, but then I would have had problems with transportation. I figured that, at the very least for me, the minimum length should be 1 meter 80. That way the price is reasonable and I could transport it myself in the car with the trunk closed, which is extremely important for our St. Petersburg weather. Winter when it's 1 degree above freezing and sleeting. I bought a countertop made of solid birch. I don't recommend spruce for this purpose at all, because spruce is very soft and gets dented from any touch. Birch is 50% harder than spruce, plus spruce often has problems with resin. Ideally, use oak or ash, but that costs 2 to 3 times more. As usual, I'll share the full estimate at the end of the video. For my project, birch is quite suitable, so I ordered an almost finished tabletop right away. It already had the chamfer removed and was well sanded. Ideally, you should get it already finished with a top coat, since it's actually cheaper than doing it yourself. But there weren't any available, and I happened to have a can of good interior oil with wax lying around, so I finished the tabletop myself. I poured the oil straight from the can and spread it over the surface with a microfiber cloth. I had tried applying oil with a brush before, but I liked using the cloth more. Previously, I poured oil onto the cloth instead of directly on the piece, so pouring it straight onto the table was a major change. In just the 10 seconds I hesitated, the trail of oil soaked into the wood, and no matter how much I rubbed afterward, that trail was still visible. It's good that the tabletop has 2 sides, so I can choose which one will be the front, and I'll remember that I need to pour the oil onto the cloth. After I applied oil to the entire surface, I used a paper towel to remove the excess and left the tabletop to dry for a day. I applied 1 layer of oil to the underside of the tabletop and 3 layers to the working surface. While everything was drying, I assembled the second part of the table, called the base, in the attic on the first floor. You can use almost anything for this, since our goal is simply to position the tabletop at the desired height. And since my table was really lacking storage space, regular drawer cabinets were perfect for solving both problems at once. You can just place the tabletop on top of them. In my case, these are similar to IKEA's Alex drawers. Their width and depth are almost perfect. The height is 71 centimeters plus 4 centimeters for the tabletop. That's exactly the same 75 centimeters as a standard desk for mutants. I'm already used to having a stool under my feet. It doesn't bother me, and the drawer benefits outweigh this drawback. If you need a lower desk, you can simply measure the distance from the floor to the armrest so that your feet rest comfortably on the floor. And IKEA, for example, has this kind of drawer unit or this kind of drawer unit. They can be either lower or higher. Plus, you can put the drawer unit on wheels or adjustable legs and set the height perfectly for you. The drawer units are assembled, and before bringing in the countertop, there's a small but very important detail. I stuck silicone pads on top of the drawer units, the kind used to adjust cabinet doors. Because solid wood has its drawbacks, and one of them is instability, solid wood countertops are always a bit warped, and these pads can help compensate for that. The drawer units had holes designed for attaching the countertop, but I specifically installed those parts at the bottom. Since the countertop weighs more than 20 kilograms and sits on silicone, even under its own weight and without any fasteners, it doesn't move anywhere at all. Before installing the countertop permanently, you need to screw the pre-purchased metal cable tray to its underside. A template was included with it. I measured the center of the countertop and the center of the template, aligned them, and since for some reason I still don't have an awl, I used a spade bit to make marks for the fasteners. I screwed the brackets from the cable channel in place, and now I can set the table in its working position. Thanks to the cable channel, I can solve another problem. The problem that really annoyed me was the mess of wires, which made it impossible to vacuum properly even by hand. And now I don't spend any time cleaning at all, the robot vacuum does it for me. This is the Roborock Cravo S Robot, a mopping vacuum cleaner with a self-cleaning dock that has containers for clean and dirty water, as well as a dust bag. The robot is equipped with 2 rotating brushes that press against the floor so it can clean up spills, wash away small stains, and vacuum too. The robot does regular mopping around the house, which saves me a lot of time. At the same time, the robot can both mop the floor and easily go onto low-pile carpets. It automatically lifts the brushes and increases suction power to clean the carpet. When it goes back onto tile, the brushes automatically lower. The obstacle avoidance system was a pleasant surprise. The robot doesn't get stuck even under a wall-mounted toilet, and if needed, you can set up no-go zones in the app with just a couple of taps. I also appreciated the new system for washing and drying the brushes at the station with warm air while they rotate. This way, the brushes don't develop an unpleasant smell like they used to for me before. Roborock Cravo S is an excellent assistant, and you can get one just like it by following the link in the pinned comment. I continued to upgrade my workspace, and to make sure the monitor could always be in the right position, I bought a mount. At first, I didn't realize that it should be attached not in the center of the desk, but a bit to the side so that the center lines up with the plate for mounting the monitor. The mounting holes are usually standard, and the new 27-inch monitor was securely placed on the mount. Another advantage is the same cable management, which allows you to neatly route all the wires. The next item that will be placed on the desk is an additional stand. I couldn't find a suitable one made entirely of solid wood, and I also considered making one myself, but a quick calculation showed that it was cheaper to buy a ready-made one. I got one made of plywood with an oak veneer. Actually, I could have put the monitor on it, but it's more convenient with a monitor arm. How will the stand be used? I'll show you when everything is in place. I rolled out a large desk mat on the table. After trying a big one once, I can't stand small ones anymore. On the mat, there's a brand new wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse. And now the speakers fit nicely on the edges of the desk, because before the speakers wouldn't fit on the desk and were just sitting on the floor. Everything was going smoothly until my favorite sysadmin troubleshooting ritual started on the computer. I had a side quest to give a computer to a child for schoolwork, and it should have been perfect for this task. Here's my old computer, the one I could experiment on and not feel bad about. But somehow, just by sitting in the attic for 2 years, it managed to break. It starts up, but doesn't show anything at all. All attempts to bring it back to life led to nothing, and even swapping the RAM back and forth didn't help, even though that's some pretty powerful magic. Sticking to the rule that you have to stand by your words, I gave the child the computer I was working on. I used an oil-free compressor to blow out centuries-old dust and checked how effective it was. I kept the mechanism for video recording for myself. I'll still need it. The system was already installed there on an SSD, and the child born in 2015 was able to enjoy playing a game from 2003. I got myself a laptop for fieldwork that can handle video editing, but it's strange to work on it from home. So I came up with a plan to take one of the NVMe drives out of the laptop so that later I could fully switch my work from SSD to NVMe on another PC. During the disassembly process, damn Windows of course decided to update at the perfect time. Screw you, Microsoft. Alright? Screw it. And as usual, after reassembling, I ended up with extra parts for data transfer. Back and forth. Recently I've also been using an NVMe drive that's in a case like this. It turns into a super high speed 2TB flash drive, but they're more useful to me on my PC, so I swapped them for the 1TB drive from my laptop, which still has another terabyte left. Video production requires a huge amount of storage space. For me, hard drives are just consumables. I bought another used desktop for myself that can handle my work tasks. Unfortunately, it didn't have a second M2 slot, so I had to replace the one that was there with my 2TB drive. I also plugged in a couple more HDDs, and overall it's ready to work. Back when I worked as a sysadmin, bootable flash drives were something really complicated. And now everything is done in just a couple of clicks, and Windows installs onto an NVMe drive from a USB 3.2 flash drive in about 10 minutes. The next element of a good workspace is lighting. I installed a special lamp on my monitor. It's a game changer for those who like to work at night. It really helps save your eyes. It turns on, off, and can be adjusted. The color temperature and brightness are controlled with this kind of dial, which I placed on the stand next to the voice assistant. Even though I try, regular viewers of the channel sometimes rightfully criticize me for the sound, especially when the music in my videos is too loud. And to grow professionally, I needed to completely upgrade my audio recording equipment. I bought an external audio interface as a set, which I connected to the speakers using professional cables with gold-plated contacts. I didn't know that even the cables connecting everything make a huge difference in sound quality. Now the voice is recorded on slightly more advanced equipment, not just a USB microphone. I didn't buy a new boom arm, decided to try using the old one for now. And here the desk stand was really helpful, since I couldn't attach the boom arm to the tabletop because of the distance. With the help of this kind of Velcro, I continued the cable management. It costs 200 rubles but brings a million's worth of satisfaction. Another equally useful thing is professional trim-off tape. In the reviews under the cons section, people write that its adhesive is way too strong. I would call it perfect. With its help, I attached the audio interface underneath the shelf. That's also where I placed the cable holder and the USB hub. I bought it with the intention of attaching it to the tabletop like a clamp, but it turned out that it doesn't fit on a tabletop that's 40mm thick, but on the shelf it might have worked out even better. The solid oak cable holder is a special kind of pleasure. I worked like this for a few weeks and it was such a joy, but there's more to come. Another package arrived, packed to the max, and you have to open it with a crowbar. And inside was a thick metal frame for a desk with electric height adjustment from Torgostol. This kind of desk base is equipped with a lifting mechanism that allows you to work both sitting and standing. With an adjustment range from 70 to 118 cm, you can customize the desk to fit your height. For assembling the frame, everything you need is included except for a screwdriver, and the assembly process is quite simple. The desk base can also be extended, and in width, so it can be used with tabletops of different lengths. I estimated how much I needed to extend the crossbeam to get the required distance between the pedestals. I fixed the mounting plates to the supports and attached the legs to them. I turned it over and now the frame can be integrated under the desk. The shaft from the electric motor can also be adjusted in width, so I inserted it from the motor into the opposite support. To keep controls handy but out of the way, I mounted a panel under the left side of the desk. All components are connected with wires that resemble video card power cables. We plug all of this into the socket, peel off the protective film, and the magic happens. Thanks to the thick solid wood tabletop, I was able to screw everything in with the largest screws to ensure better stability. The table rises quite quickly, about 2 cm per second. The noise level during lifting is low and quite acceptable. I raised the table to its maximum height and it was much more convenient to organize the cables this way. I cut pieces of Velcro tape with scissors and bundled all this stuff together to fit it more compactly into the cable tray. I wanted to put the router in there as well, but it turned out that inside the metal box the 4G modem loses signal, so I stuck the router outside using the same dream tape. After tidying up the wires, there's only one left to plug everything into the socket, making the workspace as practical and aesthetic as possible. The final touch is professional lighting for shooting videos, which I used to constantly carry back and forth from the bedroom, and now the ballast can finally move from the bedroom dresser to its own separate drawer. I ended up with a gorgeous workspace I never even dreamed of, and one day it will move to my office, which was supposed to be up here. But for now, this workspace is destined to move to a rented apartment, and I hope that from there it will finally move to a real office. I've worked long enough to say that you shouldn't have any illusions. A chair that costs 26,000 rubles won't replace a chair that costs 150,000 rubles. Unfortunately, that's not the case. This is still a more budget-friendly version, but it really does help you sit more correctly. Because about 2 weeks after I started using the chair, I tried to go back to the one I used to sit on, and it was already uncomfortable for me to sit on it. I realized how crookedly I used to sit, how much I slouched, and how all of this led to an incorrect posture at the desk. Plus, the other chair I had here was leather, and you don't sweat much on it, but still, it's not as comfortable as it could be. The last chair was made of faux leather, like all those DX racers and other similar stuff, which are also uncomfortable to sit in. In those faux leather chairs you sweat like crazy, and thanks to this mesh padding, your back and the place where you sit get airflow so you don't sweat. It's just awesome. The chair doesn't let me cross my legs like I used to. That's also the case with this throne-like chair. You can sprawl out with your feet on the table, get into the weirdest, most awkward position, and just sit like that reading some research on construction. There's nothing healthy about that. But with this chair, I've almost retrained myself to sit properly, and I really hope to forget what hemorrhoids and back pain are. The chair isn't without its downsides. It annoys and irritates me when I try to grab it by the armrest to pull it closer, and instead it does this. That really drives me crazy, and I just want to super glue it so the armrest stops doing that. Plus, the headrest also wobbles from side to side, which doesn't inspire much confidence, and if you sit with your head leaned back, sometimes it ends up in a crooked position. But honestly, I'm just nitpicking at this point. Honestly, the chair has been worth every penny I was offered those DX Racer chairs for advertising integration. I said thanks, but no guys, I won't talk about it, not even for free, because it has nothing to do with health. Herman Miller, get in touch with me. The desk should also help maintain your health, and I was curious if I would actually use this standing function. Because before I thought, come on, that's nonsense, what's the point of working while standing? In the end, I tried it, and now I actually do work standing up sometimes. It's one of those things, you won't believe it until you try it yourself. It doesn't mean I stand for 8 hours a day. In general, you get hemorrhoids from sitting work, varicose veins from standing work, and a headache from mental work. Basically, human beings aren't really designed for work at all, but I use everything in such a way that not only do I have to come up with work for myself in general, but even within the work itself, I have a lot of mental processes going on. I have a ritual where I just get up from my chair and start pacing back and forth across the room. While I'm walking around, the desk has already risen, and I walk and sometimes approach the computer to check something or look something up and then go back to thinking instead of sitting down at the desk or awkwardly stretching out. I really liked it in this format. Plus, when I really spend 3 or 4 hours sitting, I start getting antsy. Like, dude, just press the button and by the time you get up from your chair, your desk is already raised. I can really just stand up like this and work for an hour standing, no problem at all. When you're doing something you're interested in, time flies by really fast. And the whole point here is to change your position throughout the day, and this adjustable desk lets you do exactly that. It's awesome, I tried it out and I really liked it. I was watching my Western colleagues and they went even further. They have a portable foldable treadmill under these desks, which when folded can serve as a footrest. Then he unfolds it like this, and not only can you work, but you can also walk right there without leaving your desk, so to speak. But I didn't order such a thing because that would be too much. I was afraid the desk would wobble, but in its lowest position, it's not all the way down. The tabletop doesn't rest on the pedestals, there's a special gap left there. And I have another desk that I used to work at before, where the four legs are connected at the bottom, connected at the top, lengthwise and crosswise, and all of that is screwed to the tabletop. And in their lowest position, they both wobble the same way. If you raise the desk to its highest position, yes, it wobbles a bit more than you'd like. It would be nice, but nobody actually works in that state when all of this is happening. You just stand there and press the buttons. I've been working while standing for quite a long time now. I made sure to work this way for a while before sharing my experience because I always talk about real-life use. And it doesn't interfere with my work at all. I don't feel any discomfort, nothing like my monitor shaking while I'm working, nothing like that happens to me, and I'm satisfied. For those who have different, maybe tougher operating conditions, are there other modifications? Ergostol has a lifting frame like that, which can have thicker metal and a double crossbar. Plus, there are also desks that have a different height adjustment range, so they can go lower than 70 centimeters. For someone, this might be more suitable. I'll leave a link to the desk frame in the description. I spent a lot of time choosing a keyboard and mouse. I decided to buy a set so that both would work from a single dongle right away, and both the keyboard and mouse are very comfortable. It's kind of like the Logitech MX Master 3 and the keyboard too. The mouse of course doesn't quite measure up to the original, and it's better to get not the 750 model of this Rapu like I have, but the 760 where the forward and back buttons have already been moved. But for example, this horizontal scroll wheel, I absolutely love it. Where was this earlier in my life when I worked as a designer, worked in AutoCAD? It also has a more ergonomic shape. There are even fully vertical mice, and this is similar. It's positioned somewhere in the middle so it feels pretty familiar, but at the same time your hand is in a more natural position. This way you don't get carpal tunnel syndrome or other unpleasant things. The keyboard is also impressive. It's a solid metal keyboard. I hope that one day they'll finally make a proper shift key instead of this button, which actually just duplicates another key. Why are there two of them? It doesn't make any sense. At first I kept missing the shift key and it really annoyed me. Now I've kind of gotten used to it, but I shouldn't have to retrain myself. Everyone else has a proper shift key on their keyboard. I really hope that with the mouse they figured out to move the buttons from the front to the side in the next model. Maybe they'll do the same with the keyboard too. Other than that, I really enjoyed all this wireless stuff. I've never had anything like it in my life before. I can't even put into words how happy I was when I pulled out this drawer, which I really needed. All my stuff used to be scattered around the bedroom in the cafe. In the dresser, instead of clothes, I just had a bunch of tools, some computer junk, wires and other stuff. Now all of that has moved to my workspace, and finally the bedroom is actually a bedroom and the workspace is a workspace. The monitor stand too. I thought it was kind of useless, but once I started using it I realized I was wrong. It's convenient to place the audio interface, some of those USB gadgets put something else somewhere, and it's handy to put your phone, a notebook or an external hard drive there or something else. It's really convenient to have a place to put all this stuff, plus you get the option to slide the keyboard under the stand, which you couldn't do before because of that stock monitor base it used to stand on, and that's also a special kind of satisfaction. I bought a budget monitor so that it would fit within the duty-free limit, so I wouldn't have to pay extra customs fees or overpay. It's a simple monitor, but it's 100 Hz because before I had a 60 Hz one. It's better to have a higher refresh rate to protect my eyes. Plus, I was watching my colleagues. Some work with flat monitors, some with curved ones. The thing is, this one is also curved, and I didn't know why. That's also done to protect your eyes. When we work with a flat monitor, the focal distance between us and the center of the monitor and us and the edge is different. So the edge forms a hypotenuse, a longer path, and because of that your eyes can get strained. And what's cool about these curved monitors is that the distance to every point you look at is the same. So that's why they make them curved, it turns out. But it's still kind of uncomfortable for me. I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind someday. But I noticed that most professionals actually work with 27-inch flat monitors. It's not as common there. This whole thing with these lengths. And overall, it's quite normal. Plus there's this lamp on the monitor. I'm also trying to find a balance so I don't sit here for 14 hours straight, but instead go do some manual work in between. so that there's a kind of work-life balance to keep all that in check and to maintain professional longevity. As for audio equipment, I can say that an era has passed, at least I really hope so, and there won't be any more comments like, "Ah, Ilya, why is your music blaring again? The voice is quiet, the music is loud." I didn't used to have special monitoring headphones, but now I do, and I track the sound everywhere. Now I can hear it, and now even my own ears bleed from my old videos. I didn't have any money, so I recorded with whatever I could find. The headphones had a 1-star rating on Yandex Maps. And it's not that simple, it's just that they squeeze you from every side. Because if you spend 30 minutes in them, that's it. After that, it's unbearable. Your ears hurt badly, especially the outer ears themselves. I don't know what shape they're supposed to be. Whoever designed them, let them work in those headphones for the rest of their life, because it's just impossible. If possible, I'll change the headphones later. Everything else is more or less okay. The only thing is, I wish the boom arm was a bit longer because it's just a little too short. I wanted a slightly more powerful graphics card, so I ordered one from that blue online marketplace. It's a good thing I have a professional habit of unboxing everything on camera, because the new graphics card turned out to be not new at all. It was practically packed with dust inside. So be careful with computer hardware. There are scammers who sell used mining equipment as if it's new. I've switched completely to working with NVMe drives. All my projects are edited from these drives, and honestly, I really enjoyed it. It's pretty much the same as switching from mechanical drives to SSDs. That's about the difference, because before I had... Even with SSD drives, there was so much information, so many huge files that even on an SSD, you just open a folder and sit there waiting for something to open, waiting for it to load, waiting for it to process everything, and that's how it was, every time. All of this was happening and it was really annoying. Well, it takes a lot of time, you're all pumped up, like I'll quickly edit everything, cut it all up, add everything, but it just opens. It takes forever and you have no idea what's going on. Copying these terabytes back and forth, that's just a nightmare too. It takes several hours. That's data transfer, but things get lost, some files get corrupted, and source files disappear. It's a nightmare, but now it's just amazing. Now everything copies in just a couple of minutes. It's perfect. I'm really impressed. I never even dreamed I'd have such a top-notch workspace. Huge thanks to everyone who donated, everyone who supported, everyone who contributed, everyone who was interested in the home project, everyone. Only 15 people on Boosty. My respect for the support, and again, huge thanks to the subscriber Nikolai. Good luck finishing all the work on the house. Any extra little bit of money, which in these tough times of slowdowns, shutdowns, demonetization, anything that I managed to scrape together, I try to reinvest it to make even better content for you, and since we're talking about Boosty, I post videos there, everything related to money. There's already a whole series of videos there about how I earned money to build myself a house. And I'll try to record a video that's more technical, a bit dry. I often get questions about what I use to film, my lighting, sound and video production behind the scenes. I'll try to do that soon. There's a link under every video in the description. Of course, it took quite a bit of money for everything. It was actually kind of scary to put together that budget, to calculate everything together. I bought everything over different months. It took quite a long time to gather it all. Everything came in parts, so I managed to scrape together enough for all of this. If we're talking specifically about the desk, you can actually make a really cool desk overall. It's pretty budget friendly because the cabinets can cost 2,000 or 3,000 rubles each. And you can also put a tabletop on them, not made of solid wood, but for example, like the thick laminated chipboard countertop I have in my kitchen. They are sold on Marketplace already cut to standard sizes and with finished edges, which is very important. And instead of this thin countertop that just sags over a long span, you can make a really good sturdy countertop, just not made of solid wood. I really want to make the countertop even longer. But here a problem arises. For example, if you use it without a frame, it will start to sag a lot. It'll bend like a bow, and very few people show this. Because if you look at those tables after a couple of years of use, you'll see a gap like this between the edge of the countertop and the cabinet. It will really sag badly. And they put these kinds of supports under the table and it really ruins everything. But thanks to this frame with the lifting mechanism, you can actually make a long tabletop, and it's all because of the frame. It won't warp like that, it won't sag, and I'll say maybe not in my own words, but I completely agree with them. I will never again in my life try to save money on things that keep me off the ground, whether it's a chair, a bed, or for example shoes. Also, I need to finish the interior work on the house. There are just a few final touches left on the first floor, and soon the rooms on the second floor will be ready too. So subscribe so you don't miss it, and see you in the next video.